As a producer, it's so easy to fall into the trap of endlessly tweaking a beat, chasing perfection that never comes. But the truth is, done is better than perfect. Now don't get me wrong, striving for quality is great, but perfectionism can actually stop you from finishing your music. And if you never finish it, it will never see the light of day. That's why this week I set myself a challenge. Make a beat every morning, give myself 2 hours, bounce it out and then just move on. No overthinking, no endless revisions. Just creating, committing, and then moving forward. And by the end of the week, I'll have at least 5 new beats either to release or to send out to artists. Now, we all know that not every beat's going to be a masterpiece, but here's the thing. Even the greatest artists weren't making their best work every day. Do you think Leonardo da Vinci was painting the Mona Lisa every morning? Creativity is just about showing up. You never know when you're going to create your next masterpiece. So in this video, I'm going to break down each of the 5 beats I made this week, walking you through my process creating them, and sharing some production tips and tricks along the way. And hopefully there's something in this video that you can apply to your own music. So let's get into it. So it's day 1 of the challenge, and I actually went to see the singer Sasha Keeble live yesterday, which was absolutely incredible. And I really love the drums on her track, Take Your Time.
Try to separate my love and friendship from my time.
So I wanted to create something with a similar sort of groove. So first thing I did is drop that track into Logic and use the stem splitter just to get the drum stem from that. And I used that as a guide to create my drum beat. And you can hear it's not identical, but it's very similar. And nearly all the drums from this beat came from one of Creative's drum kits. Honestly, they're some of the best drum kits you can find, so yeah, I definitely recommend checking them out. And I started off by creating the kick and snare pattern. On top of that, I took this hat loop from the Creative pack, chopped it up, and then created this completely new rhythm. And then the only other drums we had in there was 2 perk 1-shots. And then I bussed all the drums to a new channel and added the knock plugin. And that just helped to glue them all together. Plus an RC20 that was just adding a little bit of grit. After that came the chords, and for this I used the incredible Shearwater piano plugin. And this has been my go-to piano for the last few months. Chords-wise, there's not really too much science to it, or as far as I know, because I'm not classically trained. I've just listened to a lot of different music, learned some of my favorite songs, and then somehow that's kind of bled into my brain. And next up came the bass, and I've been trying to force myself to actually play my live bass, which is behind me, instead of just being lazy and using a plugin. And then the bass, which is an Epiphone viola, was just DI'd straight into Logic. And then I've got the Corey Wong Archetype amp sim on that. And once I'm happy with that sound, I bounce it out to a new channel. I roll off the highs with an EQ, use a compressor to tame it. I've got R-Bass on there, which has some extra low-end harmonics, plus a good Hertz mid-side, which is just used to mono the bass. Then after that, I wanted to add some guitars. And the first one was playing similar chords to the piano. And then I had a few little lead guitar parts which were really just playing some ear candy. I then added a pad using the Logic stock plugin Alchemy, super spacey high pass with no low end at all. And that's just kind of floating on top of the beat. And then there's a triton in there for the lead, which is kind of creating a hook. And that one's got good Hertz, wow control in it, giving it that sort of tape, wow flutter sound. And then there's this glittery Rhodes part in the background. And that's got a lot of delay and reverb on it to give it that sort of sound. And then finally for the intro, I wanted to give it this sort of ambient, spacey kind of vibe. So I bounced the lead, piano and the pads to a new track and added an effect rack to that. And then in the effect rack, I've got this preset, which is sort of a copy of the Microcosm pedal. Lots of echo on there, lots of panning. And when we play all of that together, this is what we get. Right, day 2, another day and time for another beat. I was listening to some music last night and this track by The Colleagues featuring Freddie Gibbs and Paul Wall came on.
Bitches, dope, and dollars buy everything. Yeah, custom Jeep with diamonds on everything.
And I'm a big fan of Freddie Gibbs and I loved his verse on this, so I wanted to create a beat around that. So again, I used Logic's trusty stem splitter to get the a cappella for that. And the drums for this one are really simple. A really punchy kick, 2 snares stacked on top of each other, one for the mids, one for the highs, and then a hat loop that I've chopped up and then placed off the grid to create a nice swing. And then moving on to the chords, again I used a Shearwater piano, but I stacked that up nicely with an east-west choir. And there's quite a lot of reverb on those, so it gives it a sort of pad effect. And then added guitars, and I've stacked quite a few here. Some of them playing lead lines, some of them playing muted chords, and those sound really nice together with that piano. And in the background, I wanted to add some little ear candy parts to keep it interesting. And there's some flute samples taken from east-west again, plus a lead. And then there's a subtle kind of drone-like effect panning from left to right using Logic's auto filter. Finally, the bass is recorded in live again using my Epiphone viola bass, which gives the beat that strong backbone. When we put all of that together, here's how it sounds. Before we move on to day 3, I just wanted to stop for a short intermission. My sample pack Secret Sauce and Soul Food are available to buy from my website, and they're full of song starters and stems to inspire your next beat. And if you want to grab those with 50% off, you can do that using the code OHIMARCH for the next 2 weeks. And also, if you want a free taster pack, you can find that on the website as well. And all the links for those are in the description. Anyway, back to the video. All right, day 3, let's get straight into it. And once again, I'm starting with an a cappella for inspiration. And this time it's Goya Gambani's Chase the Sunrise.
Chase the sunrise, I'm looking for the master key. When the slugs fly, I'm thinking, is they after me? Cause in my pop's eyes.
So first thing I wanted to do when I looped up the a cappella is find a sound for the main chords. And I decided to open up Sky Keys, which is an absolute treasure trove full of amazing sounds. And I found this really nice but basic sine sort of sound. And then I added wow control to that to give it that tape flutter. And with this one, I really love how the chords are descending in the first half, but then they're ascending back up in the second half. Another really nice thing about this beat is the variation from the A section to the B section. So in the A section, you've got those sine wave chords, and then in the B section, the chords are played in by a Rhodes and a piano. And I've added some really nice twinkly notes on the piano just to give it a little bit more spice. And for the drums on this one, pretty simple again, just a kick, a snare and a hat. And we've got the kick on the 1 and the 3 with a little ghost kick, and then the snares are on the 2 and the 4. And then with the hats, I took a couple of chops from this loop from a Beat Butcher kit, and by using a few different hits, it gives it a more realistic feel. And once again, the bass was played in live. And one thing I'd like to point out that I haven't yet is this sponge which I have on the bass. And that was stolen from something Motown bassist James Jamerson used to do. Putting the sponge between the bridge and the pickup really helps to dampen the sound, giving it a more upright bass feel. And then the guitar lines on this one are there to just accentuate the bass really, with just a few little twinkly bits in between. So my 2 hours were up with this beat and it was sounding nice, but it really felt like it could do with something else. So I thought I'd cheat the process a little bit and I'd send it over to my friend Pal Singh, who's an incredible producer. And he's worked with the likes of Maiden Tyre and Kaylin Ellis. Just a few hours after I sent it to him, he sent these stems back over to me. And I can't tell you exactly where those sounds came from, but I can show you what they sound like. And there's some ambience in there, a few leads and also some extra pads. And that really brought the final beat together. Yeah, this is just a super simple tip. If you're ever feeling stuck, send what you've got over to one of your friends who's a producer or a musician or a singer, and they'll just bring new ideas to the table. And once I put all of that together, here's what the final beat sounded like. Right, we're on to day 4 and I'm finding the best way to find inspiration on this time-limited challenge is to just pull up an a cappella. And the drums on this one have a similar sort of groove to yesterday's actually. There's a simple kick and snare groove with a snare roll. And then there's this really nice hat loop that I found in my drum folder. And what's really nice about this beat is the snare sound and the main instruments really change up between the A and B section. On the A section, it's these 2 beefy snares with a sort of flute sound from Sky Keys. And then on the B section, we've got this heavily reverbed guitar with the Contact Noir piano, plus the snares changed and it's this tiny little rim sound. And that Noir piano is another really nice sounding piano. And I've cranked up the noise that's inside the plugin, which sounds amazing. And those 2 sections create a really nice juxtaposition between the verse and the chorus. And I can see a trend appearing here where I was using a lot more live instrumentation this week. I guess that's just how I was inspired by. Sometimes it'll be a lot more synths and stuff inside of the box. And one final thing I wanted to highlight from this beat were the little breaks in the drums for added tension, which is something I love to do in my beats. So at the beginning of a section, I'll strip out all of the drums and I'll bring them back in on the snare, whether that's on the 2 or on the 4, just to give you a little break. And that creates some really nice anticipation. And when we put all of that together, we've got the beat for day 4. Right, we've made it to day 5, and for the final day, I thought I'd spice it up a little bit. So I'm going to start off by creating a sample, and then I'm going to flip that into a beat. So with this sample, I wanted to get a little bit of percussion in there just to start me off and have something to build off. And I started with this sample taken from an A&M sound pack. I then used a transient shaper to really tighten that up and added a little bit of echo. Bounced that to a new channel, then added another transient shaper to make it even tighter. And this is what it sounded like afterwards. And after that, I wanted to add some chords, so I grabbed the shearwater piano and I played something in. And notice the importance of the grace notes in this one to create the vibe that I was going for. And grace notes are essentially short notes that resolve into the main note. And then wanted to add a pad-like synth that was playing a variation of those main chords, and I used sky keys for that. I also wanted something twinkly in the background that was going to add some character. So I played in this melody and added an effects rack. I then had that play forwards and then backwards to create this really nice effect. I then wanted to add some ear candy, and then once again, my go-to is east-west for this. And I took some strings and some flutes from there. And then onto the B section, which is the chords on a different sound, a kind of brassy sound from sky keys. Plus I then wanted to add some vocals. So I sang in this really rough, really out of key melody. And then I added in some really fast auto-tune, Little Water Boy, which is pitched up an octave, and that's adding some really nice character with the form and shifting. I also then doubled that track and then pitch shifted this one down in Little Water Boy, 7 semitones. And that's creating a really eerie, strange harmony. And that's all I really wanted in the sample. Before bouncing it out though, I did use Varispeed to both pitch and speed that up. And once I had that bounced out, I dropped it into a brand new Logic project. I've actually just downloaded this free AJ Hall drum kit, which is full of amazing live drum loops. And I found something in there that fit absolutely perfectly. And honestly, sometimes it's better not to overcomplicate things. If you've got a loop that sounds incredible, there's no point chopping that up, just put that straight in. And then on top of that, all I did was played in some bass, and that was pretty much a wrap. The only other thing I did add was an intro and a breakdown section. And for that, I took the keys from the sample, and again, I put effects rack on that with that sort of microcosm dupe. And here's what that final beat sounded like. That's it, 5 beats in 5 days. And I actually think 4 out of those 5 are really nice. And I think the biggest thing I can take away from this challenge is, even if you're not feeling inspired, just get up and create. Thanks for watching, everybody. If you're a producer or a beat maker, I've just started up my own Discord community where you can ask questions, share your music, collaborate, and so much more. And I'd love to see some of you in there. And you can find the link for that in the description. And if there's any topics or production techniques you'd like me to cover next, please just leave a comment or reach out to me on Discord.